Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of The Alpha, the show where we talk about the hottest topics in pop culture and sports. Thank you guys for joining me. I have a great show set up for you guys. We're going to be talking about the latest of the Stephen A. Smith and LeBron James drama, and I will be giving my perspective of who's right and who's wrong. We're going to be talking about the Marvel reveal that just happened yesterday, revealing the cast of Avengers Doomsday. We're going to be talking about Russell Wilson going to the New York Giants and what that means for their future draft pick, along with Stefon Diggs going to the New England Patriots. And then we're going to end it off with some recent comments Ben Affleck had to say about his experience playing Batman in the DCEU. But before we get on to that, be sure to hit the like button on the video and subscribe to the channel and to tap the notification bell to get notified when all my videos goes live, as well as check out the Alpha Podcast in the description on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And we're going to get right into it. So I know y'all guys are not living up under a rock. You've seen the discourse between Stephen A. Smith and LeBron James. LeBron James recently just went on Pat McAfee and had some recent comments, of course, about Stephen A. Smith. And we knew Pat McAfee, being the smart guy that he is, he was interviewing LeBron. Of course, he was going to ask him about Stephen A. and the whole fiasco that happened earlier 3 weeks ago when Stephen A. Smith signed his contract and they had that altercation at the basketball game. And LeBron James had this to say.
Yep.
Which leads obviously to you and Stephen A. Hey, legit, that feels like a moment that had been brewing for a long time.
He's like on a Taylor Swift tour run right now.
Oh yeah, yeah, we're watching it. Yep. We're all seeing it.
Oh yeah,
you're seeing it as well.
He literally, it started off with, I didn't want to address it.
Yeah, sure.
I didn't want to address it. I wasn't going to address it, but since the video came out, I feel the need to address it.
Yeah, on fire. You would be not to talk about it.
Are you kidding me? If there's one person that couldn't wait to the video to drop so you could address it, it's your ass. Like seriously, it's and like another, he completely like missed the whole point. The whole point. Never would I ever not allow people to talk about the sport, criticize players about what they do on the court. That is your job, to criticize or to, be in a position where, okay, if a guy's not performing, that is all part of the game. That's all part of the game. But when you take it and you get personal with it, it's my job to not only protect my damn household, but protect the players. And I think a lot of the media, including him, and I know he's gonna be happy as hell. He's gonna be smiling from ear to ear when he hears me talking about it again. Oh my God, he's gonna get home and grab some ice cream out of the fucking freezer and sit in his chair in his tighty whities on the couch.
I hope at some point you two do get a chance. But you're right.
Dude, relax, bro. Relax. Seriously.
Every time I come on my show, I feel like I never agree with stuff that LeBron James says. I am put into a position to 8 to 9 times out of 10 disagree with something LeBron says. In this interview, LeBron said that Stephen A. couldn't wait to address that moment between him and Stephen A. And that the media nowadays has shifted from critiquing players and their play, instead they're making it more personal. I disagree with that on many instances. And what LeBron James is referring to, and this is where I will defend Stephen A. If somebody went in front of all those people at Crypto.com Arena and got in my face like that, in front of all those people, after I just signed a big contract extension, in the middle of the game in the third quarter, you're going to come in my face and say some stuff like that in front of me? And it got posted worldwide on the internet and went viral, and I'm a media personality. You really think that I'm not going to say anything about that and defend myself? LeBron, we get it. You are one of the most famous people in the world. But Stephen A. has had one of the biggest shows in American sports television. Worldwide, not just American, worldwide. He doesn't need to talk about you to gain publicity. That man had every right to comment about that situation. His bosses even made him do it. They said, you're going to go to First Take and address it. Did Stephen A. probably weren't going to address it on First Take? He probably wasn't, but he was going to address it on Stephen A. Smith's show. So don't paint Stephen A. like he's this attention seeker. Because LeBron, you are the attention seeker. What do you think that you was doing when you went out there to the court like you did in front of all those people? You wanted the attention. What do you think you were doing on the Pat McAfee show? You want attention. You were the one wanting to be... Would I have thought in a million years that he was ever going to go on a show with Pat McAfee? Absolutely not. Pat McAfee would be the last person that I would have thought LeBron James would be doing a show with. But he did. And he's doing this after Stephen A. has said what he said, went on these podcasts, and done all this. This was all planned by LeBron. Rich Paul was just on there 10 days ago. LeBron James announced a podcast with Steve Nash the same day. And you're blaming Stephen A. Smith for wanting attention? And this is where I can defend LeBron. Did LeBron have the right to feel how he's felt about Stephen A? Absolutely. Because one can argue that Stephen A. Smith it felt personal because Stephen A. Smith was questioning LeBron's fatherhood and the way he was parenting his children. I can agree with LeBron James on that point. But that did not give you the right to go out there in front of all those people and do what you did. And then go on a live show in Pat McAfee with that audience and make this dude and call him saying he's on a Taylor Swift run. Saying he's pretty much painting him as an attention seeker. Really, LeBron? And you're going to go out there and trash on people like Brian Windhorst. This is what he said about Brian Windhorst. Somebody who always defends LeBron James all the time.
Like I seen Brian Windhorst on one of these shows not too long ago. Like a
Wendy.
Yeah, you played over high school.
Wendy, you guys played together in high school.
Yeah,
right? He was on your high school
this
team.
guy was like, says he's like my fucking best friend. These guys are just weird.
So yeah, he just goes on live television and just trashes the guy who just defends him all the time. And this is a problem that a lot of people have about LeBron James. Bro, you're being a hypocrite. You went on a show. I'm going to repeat myself again. You over here trashing Stephen A. for saying he's basically an attention seeker. But yeah, you are the one who went in front of all those people and did what you did. And you really think Stephen A. Smith was not going to retaliate to some reason? Stephen A. Smith is the number one sports personality, sports commentator in sports outside of Shannon Sharpe. And they both work at the same network. So, of course, Stephen A. was going to do what he was going to do. So what? You'll clap back at him is to go do this? And yes, he done some... And we're going to move on away from this aspect because LeBron James had a great day yesterday. He done a lot of things. After all of this stuff with the Pat McAfee show, after all the interview he had, people were on his side going viral. He then that night hit a game-winning shot, and then he proceeded to go on Instagram and post an old clip of Stephen A. getting ready to box because of Stephen A.'s previous comments, which Stephen A. Smith was wrong on this point of view. Saying that Stephen A. said if LeBron James would have swung at him, he would have punched him in the face. Which we knew Stephen A. wasn't going to do that, and LeBron weren't going to do that. LeBron's not that stupid to do that. So this happened that night. And we moved on to some of Stephen A. Smith's comments today, which I want to talk about to where it's getting very personal at this point.
I suggest that he be happy with the things that I haven't brought up. I never brought up really and never really discussed why you were not at Kobe Bryant's memorial service. I never really brought up or discussed why you did not attend Dwayne Wade's Hall of Fame induction when that man was directly responsible for you capturing a championship for the first time in your career. I brought up none of that. I didn't bring up the fact that even though when people had asked, you had alluded to what had happened tragically to your son, and thank God he's okay with his heart condition. I didn't bring up the fact that even though you couldn't go to the Hall of Fame induction of Dwayne Wade weeks earlier, you were out of the country on business. I didn't bring that up. That's your personal business, okay? But the fact is, you wasn't at the Hall of Fame induction of a brother that's going to drastically assist to you being a Hall of Famer because he helped you become the champion that you are, and he was a big brother to you. I brought up none of these things. But LeBron James, at the end of the day, wants to come at me, and he's walking around pouting. Why would he be pouting?
So that was Stephen A's comments, and this is where I had a problem with Stephen A. See, I'm being non-biased here. Y'all know I love Stephen A. Smith, okay? He's somebody I look up to in the media space, and is somebody that I model my content and my personality around. Him and Shannon are just my guys. So obviously you would think going into this conversation I was going to defend Stephen A., but I cannot defend Stephen A. on this part. That, if LeBron James wanted to say something about that, that was personal. Stephen A. Smith had no right to go on live television today and point out anything dealing with what LeBron was doing during Kobe Bryant's memorial service when he tragically passed away, and to how LeBron wasn't at D Wade's retirement ceremony or induction ceremony. That is a step too far. That is where the line is crossed. LeBron James, what you said yesterday on Pat McAfee, that implies to what happened today. Because Stephen A. Smith, that was a bad look. Actually, Stephen A. Smith had to go back and correct himself because he basically misspoke about the whole Kobe Bryant memorial thing, saying that he wasn't even there when actually he was there. So it was a bad look for Stephen A. all day today. Most importantly, what we need to take away from this conversation is this beef has to stop. It's getting personal. It's getting out of hand. It's becoming a troll. LeBron James took the time that he did yesterday. He went in front of all those people, promoted his new stuff, promoted himself. This is the first time LeBron has ever publicly spoken in front of people like this. Then he goes out and does what he does in the game last night, and then he was feeling good about himself, and then he went on IG and posted that clip about Stephen A. And then Stephen A. was in his feelings yesterday too and went on his show and spoke about calling LeBron James a liar, this, and that. And then today, Stephen A. Smith goes on First Take and gets super personal. What we should all take away from this is that this beef needs to stop because neither of you are benefiting from this. I am sitting waiting patiently for LeBron to clap back pretty much. Because two things are true. I am with Stephen A. on this part that this beef should have never existed because LeBron got it to here. LeBron escalated this because he couldn't take quality criticism about his son and his son not being good enough, knowing he's not good enough to play in the NBA. He needs to stay in the G League where he's hooping actually right now, by the way, and stay there. Because Stephen A. was right. Is LeBron right to a certain degree? Was he questioning his fatherhood? Yes, but it had to do with basketball. Because guess what? LeBron, you were the one who said that you wanted your son drafted where he was. You were the one that was going around saying and telling teams in the negotiation of your new contract saying wherever my son goes, I'm going there too as well. Everybody knows with Bronny James's record and his stats in college that nobody with that record and stats would have ever got drafted in the NBA, would have never got close to it. They would have said, see you next season. I'm going back to my second year of college. But because you're a LeBron James son and all the strings LeBron was pulling behind the scenes, Bronny got drafted. They had their moment the first night. He went out there during the middle of the season in an NBA game, played a significant amount of minutes, and laid up a goose egg in an NBA game. We all know nobody else would have got that opportunity, LeBron. And that's what Stephen A. was pointing out. But yet you went on and done what you done in front of Stephen A., humiliated that man, and then you retaliated back, and then this has caused Stephen A. to do what he done today, which was wrong on Stephen A.'s part. So both of y'all are now wrong. So how about we make a right? Let them cancel out, and then y'all settle this as gentlemen. Go behind the scenes, get a phone call. Because I think Stephen A. said today that he cannot stand LeBron James on live television today. I don't know how they're going to hash it out. I hope they hash it out, but that's just my opinion on this subject. And in summary, LeBron James essentially is full of crap. He is hypocritical, he's narcissistic, and he has an ego that is so high that only Lord knows himself who could even reach that type of ego. Because LeBron, you were willing enough to go out there and humiliate that man in front of all those people and on the internet, and you didn't think that man, you thought you were so highly of yourself and thought you had this stature that he wasn't able to respond to you, and that's his job. He had every right to defend himself. And LeBron James is the reason why it escalated today. But as well, Stephen A. is wrong because he got super personal on TV today. That LeBron James, you are right about. That was personal. But y'all got to get over this. It's stupid. It's unprofessional. It should have never gotten to where it has gotten today. It's just being petty at this point. And they got to knock it out. If you guys disagree with me, I don't care. Y'all know I'm going to speak my mind. I've never been a LeBron James guy. And after this, I really ain't. This doesn't help the case. I just think LeBron's a butthole. I really do. He's a prick. That doesn't make what Stephen A. said right today. Absolutely not. That is so personal. And I'm very disappointed in Stephen A. saying those things. If he would have said it on the Stephen A. Smith show, have at it. That's your personal platform. But on national TV, when it's supposed to be about sports, that's not appropriate for that setting. But at the end of the day, I stand on my LeBron James comments. He is a prick. Absolute prick. And I'm going to leave it at that. So yesterday we had an interesting reveal made by Marvel. There was news coming out 2 days before saying Marvel was going to be setting up this new big reveal the next day. I really didn't pay attention to it until it actually happened. So, and I posted it on Twitter. This was easily the smartest and the dumbest idea by Marvel. It was smart, but it was done super poorly. So you had these chairs out. That's a smart idea. What's not smart is having them reveal a cast member with their names on the back of the chair every 12 to 15 minutes. They started a live stream starting out with Chris Hemsworth. And then you had to wait another 15 minutes just for them to reveal the next character. I think maybe was it Anthony... Vanessa Kirby was the next pick. Whatever executive at Marvel was planning that, they need to be fired immediately because that was poorly executed on all fronts. It was dumb. It was done poorly. Smart idea, done poorly. We waited. The live stream started, if I'm not mistaken, at 11 o'clock. I think they were done at 5. Naming all the cast members that they were going to cast in the movie. But guess what? They said at the end, and we got a comment and we got a picture of it right here, saying that Robert Downey Jr. said, that's what you call a deep bench of talent. Actually, it's more like a row, but with extra on, that might be blah, 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 blah. And then Marvel said there's always room for more. And then there was an article going out saying by Discussing Film, stating that Marvel says that there is going to be more reveals in the future. But it was still stupid. Whoever come up with that precedent to do that needs to be fired immediately. Again, as I stated, it was just dumb. Out of all things, it was a smart idea. All you had to do was you should have done with the video that they ended up releasing to begin with. Okay, the video where they had them all in a row and you got through it in a nice minute. That should have been the reveal to begin with because it would have been very memorable. What did a lot of people sit and see that live stream? There was 7 million people in that live stream at one point on Twitter. So smart and dumb marketing at the same time, because a lot of idiots just like me was sitting there waiting for the thing to get to the end eventually. But that's neither here nor there. That's a side story to it. Let's get to the bigger picture, though, shall we? We got some castings for Avengers Doomsday, and we're going to read them off here. We got Paul Rudd as Ant-Man. Simu Liu is coming back as Shang-Chi. Tom Hiddleston is coming back as Loki. Louis Pullman as Sentry. Florence Pugh as Yelena. Danny Ramirez as Falcon. Ian McKellen as Magneto. Sebastian Stan as Bucky. Winston Duke as M'Baku. Chris Hemsworth as Thor. Kelsey Grammer as Beast. James Marsden as Cyclops. Channing Tatum as Gambit. Wyatt Russell as the U.S. agent. Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm. Rebecca Ramjan as Sue Storm. I don't think I spelled that right. No, Rebecca Ramjan as Mystique. Sorry. Patrick Stewart as Professor X. Alan Cumming as Nightcrawler. Letitia Wright as Black Panther. Tanit Shuerta as Namor. Sorry if I misspelled his name right as well. Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards. Hannah John Kamen as Ghost. Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm. David Harbour as Red Guardian. Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom. Ebon Moss Bartrach as The Thing. Didn't say that right either, I don't think. And then Anthony Mackie as Captain America. So to give my full thoughts and opinions on this list, I'm shocked about the X-Men stuff. Okay, I knew it was already given. They announced the whole Thunderbolts cast. I knew that the Fantastic Four cast was going to be in the movie as well. You can't make a Doctor Doom Avengers type movie without the Fantastic Four being there. But what I am shocked about is the X-Men. Patrick Stewart is back as Professor X after he's already been dead I don't know how many times. I am shocked with him and Ian McKellen coming back to play Magneto. A lot of people were speculating that Magneto was going to be in this film, played by Chris Evans, actually. I saw that by a couple of Twitter posts. But I know a lot of like the people in Hollywood, beat writers, they didn't say that. That was just fan-made stuff. I'm shocked to see how they're going to pull that off. Very old individuals. Seeing these two in a film together again is going to be weird. My guy, Cyclops is coming back. Mystique is coming back. Nightcrawler. So this puts it to perspective 100%. Hugh Jackman has got to be back playing Wolverine. They didn't announce it. There's a lot of casts that are being unannounced. So we'll get that to the next aspect of the story. But the people who the ones that I can say that I'm shocked about is Namor, the X-Men, Black Panther to a certain degree, M'Baku, and I want to say that's probably it. And Sentry. I didn't think, and Loki, I didn't think about Loki. Loki coming back is huge. I didn't finish watching the season 2 of the Loki series, but obviously they did say that Loki is the keeper of time now, and I guess that essentially meant that was supposed to be his last time playing Loki. So how does he come back into the story, meaning that he is the keeper of time now? I don't know. But another one that I was shocked about was the Black Panther, Letitia Wright. I know for the longest time they are trying to set up T'Challa coming back at some point or some way. So maybe I thought they were going to do that. That might be something that a little Easter egg that they might be keeping away from us. So we're just going to have to wait and see what they do about that. Another one that I was shocked about too was Namor. I guess this is probably going to have to do something with Doctor Doom in some aspect or some way, because he is supposed to be a villain, even though technically he was starting to be a hero in some aspect, an anti-hero at the end of Black Panther 2. But I think he's going to be doing something with Doctor Doom, pulling some strings in some type of way. And that is the cast. It's going to be full of nostalgia. Okay. I'm worried about this movie because I don't know how you're going to mesh all these people in the same movie. It's going to be hard. You're going to have the Fantastic Four. You're going to have the X-Men. You're going to have Doctor Doom, along with the Thunderbolts and other characters that have not been revealed yet. Am I still interested in some of these characters? I really think, though, they are implementing these characters like the X-Men to try and draw people to the theater to see it. Because I really think a movie with, like, if you take away those X-Men reveals, take away Thor, which I know is hard to take away Thor, But we haven't had no Thor content in a while, and a lot of people did not know if Chris Hemsworth was ever going to come back playing Thor. But we're just playing this as a scenario, hypothetical scenario. Take away Thor, take away X-Men, all the X-Men. Who would be interesting? And take away Loki. Who would be interesting in seeing that film with that lineup and cast? Your best character, in my opinion, out of all that list would have been possibly the Fantastic Four and then Shang-Chi. So that's basically all you would have had if you would have gone with a lineup without the X-Men and without Thor and Loki. I don't know. It might be a nostalgia grab. I'm interested to see how the story goes, how they're going to implement the story together. Obviously, it's going to be some type of multiversal thing. But that's just my quick thoughts on it. It's cool. It's exciting. I'm excited to see how they're going to do it. And it's drawing me to get more interested in the movie because I think they got some good nostalgic stuff coming up. Is it going to be cameo heavy? I really do. So I think it has the potential to have a No Way Home and Deadpool and Wolverine type draw to it with the cameos and just the surprises that's probably in store in this movie. So I'm very excited for that. Now, something else we're going to talk about here as well is those not included in the casting. So we got a couple of names here. Chris Evans, Captain America, Haley Atwell as the love interest to Captain America. Mark Ruffalo's the Hulk, Okoye, Star-Lord, Daredevil, Wong, Miss Marvel, Hawkeye, Spider-Man, Moon Knight, Valkyrie, the Wasp, White Vision, She-Hulk, War Machine, Captain Marvel, Taskmaster, Ironheart, Nick Fury, Kate Bishop, Scarlet Witch, America Chavez, Monica Rambeau, and Doctor Strange. Out of this list, I can go ahead and tell you right now who I know that's going to be in the film. Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, Star-Lord, and Hulk. Those are those who I can definitively say I know that's going to be in the film. I have a good idea that Okoye is going to be in the film, and M'Baku's in the film, so obviously Okoye is going to be in the film. I'd say somewhat might be in it is Hawkeye. I can say definitively who's not going to be in this film at all, I can say is Moon Knight, White Vision, Ironheart, America Chavez, and maybe Monica Rambeau. Those are the only ones I can say definitively that are not going to be in the film. But when you see that roster and you see the potential of what this film could be, I don't know, y'all. I really don't. But those are just my thoughts on the characters that they didn't announce. But do I think a majority of those on that list are going to be in the film? Absolutely. But again, getting back to the full outlook of the movie, I just hope Robert Downey Jr. does a good job with Dr. Doom. I hope they have a great story. And I just hope that it's just not going to end up like No Way Home, particularly, because I think Deadpool and Wolverine was still a great movie. But I just don't want it to have that No Way Home effect to where after you leave the theater, it's just a movie that you never want to sit down and watch again because the movie didn't get good until all the nostalgia stuff happened with the two Spider-Man. Because that's what I left the theater saying about when I watched Spider-Man No Way Home. And that is my only worry with this film. Another worry is that's a lot of people in a film. A lot. That's probably double the amount that was in Endgame. So, with the cast that they've already announced, a lot of those people that are not included in that set, I don't know. That's just a whole lot of names. There might be some more characters that they could possibly introduce in that film. But I am excited. I just feel like, again, Marvel, y'all need to do a better job about marketing this stuff, okay? That was a horrible marketing scheme. I don't know what y'all were doing, but I'm excited for the film. I'm worried about the film. I'm excited. It's a year away. I don't know how they're just saying they're now producing this and they're going to They're going to get all the production done. Then they got to do post-production. I don't know how they're going to get all of that done in a year. I keep wanting to say a month. I don't know how they're going to do that. They must have a lot of people pulling the strings of this movie. And a lot of VFX artists are going to be doing a lot of work. But all in all, I'm very excited for the lineup. And I hope the movie is going to be great. Be on the lookout for some upcoming news of that, and we're going to move on into the next subject. So it says that Russell Wilson is headed to the Big Apple after he was reportedly, or from the Steelers' point of view, they were supposed to keep one or two. As we know, Justin Fields did head to the New York Jets. So Russell Wilson is leaving Pittsburgh and headed to the New York Giants on a one-year deal worth $21 million. I have a problem with this from the Giants' perspective. You have the number 3 pick. Shedeur Sanders is available. So what does that mean if you are the Giants? When you sign Russell Wilson, you are basically saying that you do not think that Shedeur is good enough to run your franchise. My retort to that thinking would be, what makes you think Russell Wilson is going to be any better than what you already have? But my retort to that would be, what makes you think that Russell Wilson is any better than what Shedeur Sanders could possibly be? Another idea you could say with that is they probably don't want to deal with the Deion Sanders thing, with Deion being behind the scenes. But this is just the continuation of organizational malpractice. Let's just call it what it is. If the Giants were smart, if they were wanting to make this move with Russell Wilson, you could have possibly traded back, got more pick assets. Because if you're not drafting a quarterback, who are you getting with number 3? Because there's no way you're going to get Shedeur Sanders. You signed Jameis Winston and you have Russell Wilson. There's no way you're going to have a quarterback room where you have Russell Wilson, Shedeur Sanders, and Jameis Winston in the same quarterback room. It's not happening. It's not happening. Would there have been a scenario where you had one or the other? So if you did sign Russell Wilson, I still think you would have got Shedeur. But you can't have all 3. If you would have had only Jameis Winston, you would have signed Shedeur. I'd have been fine with it. But you can't have all 3. So who are you going to get at number 3, Giants? If you are the New York Giants, who are you getting with the number 3 pick? You don't need Abdul Carter. You don't need an edge rusher. It'd be crazy to take a wide receiver that high. Maybe a running back. Maybe get Ashton Jeanty. I don't think you should pick him at number 3. But, again, what makes you think that Russell Wilson is any better than Shedeur Sanders? He would have been a whole lot cheaper. He would have been younger. Shedeur Sanders is more than tough enough to be able to deal with that market in New York. This just lets you know, I don't think people are in love with Shedeur at number 3. A lot of people have said and have been on the record that number 3 is a little too high for Shedeur. If Shedeur was in any other draft class, he would have easily been the 4th, 5th best quarterback taken, specifically in last year's draft. But still, what makes you think Russell Wilson is any better than Shedeur? Now, can Russell Wilson be successful? Yes, but they need to get some. They need to be able to get a better O-line. They need to establish a run game. It's just, in what way does Russell Wilson move the needle? What quarterback coming out in the next couple of years do you see having that Jayden Daniels type effect? Caleb Williams, just a generational prospect. Patrick Mahomes. There's right now in college football, I cannot think of one quarterback that is one of those coming soon. So this is just, again, organizational malpractice by the Giants. They keep making moves like this, and it just continues to put question on the organization. Now, moving on for the Pittsburgh Steelers' point of view. What does this mean for the Pittsburgh Steelers? They have got to draft a quarterback. They don't have a quarterback. Jackson Dart is the guy. I've been saying that recently. if I was the Steelers, I would probably flirt with the idea of getting Shedeur Sanders, trading up, giving up some first round picks, get a quarterback. You have been deprived of a quarterback since Ben Roethlisberger. Okay, you got to get a quarterback in there. Trading up from the 20 whatever pick they have is 20 something and getting Shedeur. Trading back, Giants trading back. I'm just throwing it out there, GM of the Giants and GM, the Rooney family. Just something to think about. Because, I mean, Jackson Dart, he's good, but I don't think he's ready yet. He's not going to be a day one starter. I think he would have needed that Patrick Mahomes effect and been able to sit behind somebody. But, yeah, the Steelers, they said that they wanted to do one or the other. They ended up losing both. So now they have no choice but to draft a quarterback. They have the wide receivers. They're going to continue to upgrade the O-line. You lost Najee Harris, but you still have Jaylen Warren. The defense will always be the defense. But you just got to get a quarterback right. So I think trading up and getting Shedeur Sanders would be a viable option, unless you truly think in the evaluation process that Jackson Dart is just as good as Shedeur Sanders. But that's just my quick thoughts on that. And we're going to move on to Stefon Diggs getting a 3-year, $69 million deal for the Houston Texans. I can tell you right now that is a lot of money from a wide receiver that is that old and coming off an ACL. But the Patriots are desperate. They need a wide receiver. So now Drake May's got another target. Stefon Diggs is going to be able to or have to embrace the culture of the Patriot way led by Mike Vrabel and the crew. It's a good pickup. I think that Drake May does need some wide receiver help. He joins Kevin Bourne on the opposite side of the offense. Hunter Henry is still your tight end. I think he's very good as well. I would have just liked a better market for Stefon Diggs. You're not winning a Super Bowl with the Patriots. All those times that you sat there in Buffalo, sitting at the edge of the field and just hoping and just sitting there with your head down, just hoping like, man, when am I ever going to get a Super Bowl? It's not happening with the Patriots. You had a better chance with the Texans. I don't see a scenario where the Patriots are going to win anything in the future. So was this a questionable decision by Stefon Diggs? But maybe they were the only ones dumb enough and desperate enough to pay him that type of money. That is $23 million a year. $26 million of that is going to be guaranteed. That's a lot for a guy coming off an ACL. But hey, kudos to Stefon Diggs. Get your money, get your bag. I'm not hating on you, but good luck. Drake May is a stud, though. I think he's going to be very good in the future. But questionable move by Stefon Diggs, but I think the Patriots, they got a good wide receiver. They need wide receiver help, but this is just not going to move the needle. The Buffalo Bills are easily going to be the best team in that division. The Dolphins could possibly still be better than the Patriots. I still don't think the Patriots are going to do anything, but that's just my quick thoughts on that. So the very last topic today we are going to talk about is Ben Affleck's recent comments on a GQ interview that he had about his experience with the Batman role and what he had to say, because he had some very interesting comments. And this is why when people were having a problem with the take on his Batman character, which I loved, I've been on the record saying that I loved his Batman character, but a lot of people had a problem with it, and this is from his personal point of view. He had some statements earlier saying that he hated playing the character, and he went on and expounded upon that. So essentially, Ben Affleck said, what happened was it started to skew too old for a big part of the audience. Like, even my own son was too scared at one point to watch the movie. And so when I saw that, I was like, oh crap. I think we have a problem. Then I think that's when you had a filmmaker that wanted to continue down that road and a studio that wanted to recapture all the younger audience at cross purposes. So thinking about his comments, in which what people's had a lot of problems with the Batman, his take on the Batman character, that it was too old and it was too dark, and that the studio wanted to appeal to a younger audience. And this is my problem with this. It was a unique take on the Batman. To a certain degree, was your DC universe appealing to an older audience? Yes, it was. Because Man of Steel was It wasn't as gruesome as Batman v Superman, but it had that darker tone. So when you went into Batman v Superman and you had that Batman character, it worked. I loved it. I loved the warehouse scene. The only thing I didn't care about was the whole Brandon thing because I thought it was very stupid. But I feel like for the way that Zack Snyder was setting up the DC universe, it was dark, broody. It was different from the Marvel universe. And I think DC executives, they saw the success of the MCU and they said, hey, why can't we just replicate that and go with a little softer tone since it's appealing to those audiences? Because at the end of the day, Batman v Superman and Man of Steel, well, specifically Batman v Superman made $800 million, if I'm not mistaken. So it made a lot of money. And my problem with what Ben Affleck had to say about his son not wanting to watch the Batman character, is superhero movies supposed to appeal to a younger audience? Yes, it is. My argument with that, though, was this. If you wanted a younger audience to appeal to the Batman, go watch Christian Bale's Batman. To a certain degree, that was gruesome too. It's just the way the DC universe is, in my opinion, I think that is a tone that best represents the DC universe. I honestly do. It's just a tone. It's dark, more darker tone, darker storytelling, darker characters. It's different from the Marvel universe. That's what makes DC great. So I thought Zack Snyder had a pretty great vision, in my opinion. I really did. Because where it all went wrong, which I think people get this concept misconstrued, thinking that, people just weren't interested in that. No, you changed up the tone in the Justice League, and it didn't fit previous titles. I think the dynamic with Bruce Wayne, Batman being as dark as he was, did I agree with Zack Snyder's take on Superman fully? Absolutely not. I don't think he should have been as dark as he was. But I feel like if you would have had that dynamic with Batman being as dark as he was and Superman being a more lighter, being a more Christopher Reeve type Superman, it would have worked. For me and most kids in modern audiences. So I mean that to say that because I think Ben Affleck in his interview was really wanting to relate to the reason why the DCEU never worked out, which he is right about that. And I do think, on a personal experience, he didn't really enjoy playing Batman. I really don't think he did. He says that he did, but I don't think he did. I just don't think he cared for playing. He had a vision for the character, and I think he enjoyed. Well, let me take it back. I think he enjoyed playing the character. I just don't think he didn't like the behind-the-scenes stuff that he pointed out in the article with Zack Snyder wanting it done this way, and then executives wanting it done another way. Executives want a lighter side of the story. Zack Snyder was wanting the dark side of the story. So Ben Affleck was Ben Affleck and Zack Snyder had the same idea when they were going about doing Batman, and I think it worked. I just think that Ben Affleck ultimately got stressed out with the behind-the-scenes stuff, executives trying to pull strings on the vision, and then it got him uninterested, and he got tired of having to deal with everything, and then that led to the flops that did continue with Shazam, Fury of the Gods, Wonder Woman 1984, The Flash, and then it just set a bad taste in the mouth for the DCU for a lot of people, and that's the reason why WB ended up pulling the plug. So I think that's what ultimately Ben Affleck meant by his comments. Because I've been on the record, me personally, I love Batman v Superman. And I love Man of Steel. They are, obviously, I was very young at that time, coming up and watching those movies, but I enjoyed them. They were still, to this day, one of my favorite DC films ever. And it's because there's one of the only DC films with Superman and Batman together in the same universe. And at the end of the day, I just think those films never got the proper chance they deserved. I think the DCEU didn't get the proper chance to be able to flourish and turn into something different because the executives were too worried about wanting to match the success of the Avengers and didn't allow themselves to run their own race and establish films to be able to set up a DCEU that would actually appeal to younger audiences. Batman himself Yes. Was he dark? Did he? If you made a film with Batman himself, would that appeal to younger audiences? No. But in a future with a universe with a Batman like that, with a character like Superman, with a character like Wonder Woman, introducing Green Lantern and everybody else who was part of the Justice League, it would appeal to smaller audiences. And I think that's something that WB never got the vision for. Maybe I might know something different behind the scenes. Maybe actually Zack Snyder was setting up some more dark and grimy stuff, because Justice League the Snyder Cut had some dark stuff in it, had some very explicit content, and then I believe Zack Snyder was trying to set up with the nightmare scenes and ultimately Superman turning bad and inevitably in the end of the universe, wherever his universe was going to take it, where he was setting up the whole dark side thing. But I still am a firm believer, even after what Ben Affleck said about the clash behind the scene with the modern audiences and the kids saying the Batman was too broody. I think where he's coming from is that I think Ben Affleck, and I believe it from his comments in the article, he was on par with the idea behind his Batman. He enjoyed playing Batman, but he got more tired of the behind the scenes stuff with WB and the clashing of the studios, instead of actually just not enjoying playing the character at all. That's what he got sick of. He weren't tired of playing Batman. I think he enjoyed playing Batman. I think he embraced the character. That and some stuff that he pointed out in the article, saying he had some personal things going on where he had some losses in his acting career at that time when Batman was going on. So it was more stuff adding to just the negatives, and that inevitably forced him to not ever want to play a superhero again, which I don't blame him from past experience, and he's scarred from these experiences. But if you want to take away anything from this conversation, he was more tired of the behind-the-scenes stuff. And I do think that if WB was more worried about running their race instead of worrying about trying to catch up with Marvel, they would have had a successful universe with those characters. And I do believe that. That is all I have today for you guys. Thank you guys for joining me for another episode of the podcast. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to hit that like button on the video and subscribe to the channel and to tap that notification to get notified when all my videos go live. Check out the Alpha Podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will check you guys out on the next iteration of the Alpha. Thank you guys for joining me, and I love you so much, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace, love, and positivity always, y'all. See you.